On Critical Hour Report, we've been closely examining the intense discussion surrounding the recent attempts on Donald Trump's life, from the Butler rally to the incident at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. After going through a flood of viewer comments on our last video covering these events, I felt it was crucial to address some of the recurring points head-on. Many of you highlighted similar concerns about the Butler shooting, and now the follow-up occurrence over the weekend at the Washington Hilton. These include questions about how quickly Trump's ear appeared to recover from the initial graze, the limited visible blood, his seemingly calm demeanor afterward, and the convenient positioning of photographers. For the second event, people pointed out how suspiciously easy it seemed for the individual to enter the building without getting close to Trump, suggesting that heavy security would have prevented access, unless it was somehow permitted, and how the whole setup appeared beneficial for Trump, even though it happened in the ballroom area away from him. It's valuable to explore these observations because they reveal how certain lines of thinking can propel audiences toward firm beliefs that lack substantial backing. Scrolling through the reactions to our previous content, it's striking how many viewers have reached strong convictions based on virtually no concrete proof. While I've acknowledged before that aspects of the Butler incident do raise some eyebrows and feel off in certain ways, I still lack solid evidence to conclude it was entirely staged. Moreover, I seriously doubt whether the Trump team possesses the capability to orchestrate something so intricate without major flaws. Consider the grazing injury to the ear. It can create a visually striking moment, yet mend relatively fast. I'm not entirely sure what to make of it, especially given that Trump doesn't project the image of peak physical fitness. The rapid recovery does seem a bit unusual at first glance, but that alone doesn't convince me the whole episode was fabricated. Discussions about the volume of blood from such wounds overlook how it fluctuates depending on the precise location of impact, the person's age, overall health, and various other factors. As for Trump not appearing particularly disturbed, remember that he often comes across as emotionally reserved across many situations. Individuals respond to trauma in unique ways, and with his extensive history in front of cameras spanning decades, he might instinctively slip into a polished performative style under pressure. The truth is, we need to pause and ask ourselves honestly, do we truly possess clear evidence pointing to orchestration here? There's no denying that certain details stand out as atypical or hard to explain perfectly right away. However, leaping from this feels strange, and I can't account for every element straight to must have been staged represents an enormous logical gap. We have to be cautious not to make that crossing too hastily. Now, with the second incident unfolding in the same venue but on an entirely different floor, the narrative among skeptics has expanded to encompass two supposed staged attempts, one where the shooter and Trump weren't even in proximity. Trump remained in the ballroom while the action took place in the lobby below. If the underlying goal was to boost political support, the data from Butler provides a reality check. That first event was intensely dramatic, broadcast widely, featured a visible bullet graze to the ear, and yet it only shifted Trump's poll numbers by about half a percentage point, just half a point. So, does it really hold up to imagine that engineering yet another occurrence this past Saturday, one in which Trump wasn't struck at all and was separated by floors from the shooter, would somehow deliver a bigger boost to his public approval? It simply doesn't add up logically. What tends to occur repeatedly in these discussions is that one puzzling detail in a larger story gets spotlighted, and then the rest of the picture is constructed through pure speculation, without any supporting facts. Assumptions about hidden intentions, elaborate coordination, and convenient motives get layered on, even when those motives clash with how real-world outcomes actually play out. At this stage, it no longer feels like genuine inquiry or a call for additional facts, both of which are worthwhile and something we've pursued ourselves. Instead, for many, the verdict was settled beforehand on Saturday. Raising specific questions about inconsistencies is fair and should be encouraged, but we must bridge that critical divide. Noticing an anomaly doesn't automatically mean diving into full conspiracy mode. Skipping the vital process of carefully weighing and evaluating the available evidence makes it far too simple to transform almost any happening into a grand plot, and history shows plenty of people do exactly that. We've seen this pattern before with mass shootings unrelated to Trump, where similar accusations fly about patsies and inside jobs. Let me touch on one more key development here. In our previous segment, I anticipated that proponents of the staged theory for Saturday's event would need to adjust their stance regarding the shooter's role, and it looks like that's unfolding. Allow me to break it down. The person identified as the shooter in the latest attempt is now recognized as someone with a background supporting democratic causes. This detail prompted many in the conspiracy camp to pause and reconsider. Why on earth would a political opponent of the president volunteer for such a scheme, especially if we dismiss the notion that his entire online presence and any statements were fabricated? Which seems particularly unlikely for the social media trail. Why would he sign up for what amounts to a lifetime behind bars with no apparent upside? Consequently, as I foresaw, many are shifting toward the position that the shooter had no idea he was involved in anything staged or manipulated. Under this revised view, one would have to accept that security officials somehow anticipated an attempt and chose to let it proceed, treating the individual as an unwitting participant. They'd permit entry to the lobby, allow him to discharge several rounds that miss the target, and then proceed with an arrest. This adaptation pushes the theory into even more improbable territory concerning the shooter's awareness and involvement. The consistent outcome is arriving at a viewpoint where virtually every aspect of any incident can be rationalized as part of a larger staging, no matter the actual circumstances. I don't believe that's a constructive approach to understanding events. In closing, while it's natural to scrutinize high-profile moments in our deeply divided political landscape, true insight comes from grounding our skepticism in verifiable facts rather than filling gaps with imagination. This invites us all to reflect. In an era of instant narratives and heightened suspicions, how can we better distinguish between healthy questioning and unfounded certainty?